Marshon Lattimore has had a rough season this year, but not because he wasn't performing, far from it. Rather, because he got injured through the meat of the season and was limited to only 7 games. In the first 5 games of the season, I'm not gonna lie, the Saints defense as a whole was getting cooked. And yes, Marshon Lattimore played these 5 games, but he himself stood out as one of the only people in the defense actually holding their weight and doing more. Now, as I said before, he only played 7 games, but I've seen a lot in those 7 games, and it's safe to say, he is still locked down Lattimore. He's not going nowhere. Now let me show you some of his numbers. In week 1 versus the Falcons, he was pretty good. He gave up 2 receptions for 37 yards. In week 2, he played the Bucks, and he was elite. He mainly covered against Mike Evans and only allowed 2 receptions for 17 yards. To be fair though, he does this every time he plays against Mike Evans, so it's really nothing new. And week 3, oh my gosh, week 3, he allowed nothing, not a thing. And I know everybody's looking at week 4 against Justin Jefferson. Normally I would come up for a reason or an excuse, but simply put, it was a bad game. His only bad game. Justin Jefferson was no doubt the best receiver this season. Don't think that it was because Marshon was bad. Think of it more so that Justin Jefferson was just not human this season. In week 5 versus the Seahawks, he completely shut down DK Metcalf and anyone that came his way. He allowed 0 yards. I wish I could say the same for the rest of the Saints defense. You would see this and think that the Seahawks got completely stopped, but this is very wrong. The Saints gave up 32 points in this game. I mean, it still won though, but 32 points is just a lot, especially compared to the second half of the season. Unfortunately for Marshon Lattimore, this was the game where he got injured with a lacerated kidney. Little did anyone know, Marshon would not return until 12 weeks later. As I've said before, the Saints defense was pretty bad in the first half of the season as a whole. New head coach Dennis Allen really struggled figuring out how to run the defense. That was until the last 6 games of the season, where the Saints defense was unstoppable. Well, except in the 4th quarter of the Bucks game, but we don't talk about that. Marshon came back in a very big game. The 7-9 Saints versus the 13-3 Eagles. Both teams fighting for something important. The Saints trying to keep their playoff hopes alive by having to beat the best team in the NFC. All odds were against the Saints, and frankly, it seemed impossible. On the other hand, the Eagles were trying to clinch the number 1 seed spot in the playoffs. At first glance, the Eagles and their fans would look at the Saints record and think, yeah, this is going to be an easy win. But little did they know. This is the scene. It's the 4th quarter. 5 minutes left in the game. It's 2nd and 8. The Eagles have the ball at their 11. The score is 13-10 as the Saints lead by 3. The Eagles have one more good chance at winning this ball game with this drive. Both teams' offenses have been underwhelming, but the defenses have been putting on a show. Marshon has been covering Devontae and AJ Brown the whole game. AJ Brown has been having a rough game when Marshon is on him. Devontae Smith was doing decent, getting 10-yard plays here and there, but the truth is they ultimately led to nothing. Marshon and the defense have been having a day, but the lack of scoring on their offense is the only thing making this a close game. As the offense is lining up, Marshon in his head knows that if his offense can't score, the defense will have to do something here to close out the game. Marshon then finds out he is matched up against AJ Brown, a favorable matchup for Lattimore. He is at first playing 3 yards off. However, he decides to take a step back. He wants to focus less on AJ and more on the quarterback. He wants to give Minshew a false sense of security with throwing it to Brown. Marshon's eyes are glued onto Minshew as Jason Kelce snaps the ball, and then
2nd down and 8, quick throw is picked off. Marshon Lattimore read it, and a pick 6 in his first game back. It's the first interception of the season by a Saints corner, and it might be a backbreaker against the Eagles.
This play closed out the game and the Saints' playoff hopes were still alive. But now the Panthers had to do the second part of the job and beat the Bucs, so the Saints could still have a chance at being division leader. Unfortunately, with the Saints' luck, the Panthers choked a 14-point comeback to the Bucs and lost, ending the Saints' playoff hopes. Unfortunately, this is the sad reality of being a Saints fan. The same day that we beat the best team in the NFC is the day that we get eliminated from the playoffs. In this Eagles vs. Saints game, Marshon gave up 5 receptions out of 10 targets for 44 yards. I would say this was very good in a first game back against AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. Marshon single-handedly won the Saints' unexpected game, and it was definitely a big win morally and showed a bright future for the Saints. Marshon's second game back was the final game of the season, in which he gave up 1 catch for 21 yards. That was it. I want to put in perspective how much better the Saints are with the new defense by comparing their final game versus their first game. In the first game versus the Falcons, the Saints gave up 215 receiving yards. In his final game versus the Panthers, the Saints defense gave up a whopping 43 receiving yards. That 1 catch that Marshon gave up was literally half of their total receiving yardage. It just goes to show how consistent Marshon is throughout everything, and he'll be even better now with an actual defense around him. And now with Alontae Taylor at his cornerback too, which I made a video about that you should check out, he won't have to face every team's top receiver every single week. Yes, Marshon faces the team's top receiver every single week. All in all, I believe Marshon is a very good cornerback who shines even when the rest of the team doesn't. If the Saints can figure out their offense, then I truly believe we could dominate next season with possibly the best defense in the league. You might call me crazy, but I truly believe this. If you're hearing this, then I appreciate you a lot. Thank you for watching to the end. If you enjoyed, like, sub if you want. Leave comments on what y'all want to see, or just give me like critiques and stuff. Peace.